So, Susie, I'd love to talk about the connection between gardening and wildlife, starting perhaps with almost the tiniest of wildlife, the insects. And you're doing a lot of work with those, aren't you?
Yes, that really is the building block, the lower part of the pyramid, so that get the planting right, get the insects really full, and then you supply food for birds, for mammals, for bats, and then on up to predators like birds of prey. So it's really fundamental to get the insects right.
And do you think people appreciate little insects and creepy crawlies enough, or do they want the charismatic creatures like otters and ospreys?
Oh, I think they do more now, I do. And I do as much as I can to show how beautiful they are. There's so many insects behind me. Yeah. I mean, who doesn't love bumblebees and bees foraging in the summer and the sound that they give, which is so soothing? But also I'm fascinated by little beetles and all the other small things in the garden, centipedes and particularly moths.
And how have you acquired the knowledge to know what moths and other insects like in a garden?
A lot of that is personal observation. So, for example, these sea hollies behind us, I've seen how they're particularly attractive to wasps. Yeah. And wasps are fantastic pollinators, even though they can be a nuisance when it comes to autumn and they switch to needing sugars. I've also noticed that the tops here, the prickly tops, often have mother-care spiders in them, which are spiders that provide little balls of carcasses of beetles and little flies ready for their young when they emerge, and their nests are in the tops of the sea hollies. All sorts of things like that I've noticed, but obviously in writing I've researched a lot and read widely.
And the sea holly is so beautiful in itself as well. Just such a lovely plant to have in the garden.
Yeah, and it's great in the autumn and through the winter.
Yeah.
And then in the spring I find the little leaf skeletons lying about in the garden, and they're absolute jewels.
Yeah. Yeah. So I gather you trap moths. Is that how you find out more about them?
Yes, you set a light trap in the evening, an hour before dusk, and it's completely harmless to the moths. It's a sort of big tub, and it has a funnel. So the light attracts the moths. They get funneled down into these egg boxes, which I've left in there. And that provides lots of nooks and crannies and places for them to hide and feel safe. Then in the morning, I get up as early as possible, not too early for me, and open the trap, and it's an absolutely magical moment because you don't know what you're going to get. It might be lots of common moths, it might be rarities. It's like opening a jewel box. It's fantastic and wonderful to show children.
Yes, yeah. So I believe there are some snoozing in here.
Yes, well, these are some moths that I attracted last night to the light trap. So what you do is you put them in the fridge to keep them calm, and then I'll be releasing them at night time. And as I unzip this, we've got some little jewels.
So what did last night yield?
Well, this is this is a moth trying to vibrate its wings in order to fly. So this is, even though it's cool in this cool bag, it's wanting to fly.
That's a big moth as well.
Well, because it's so large, it takes a lot of wing vibration to be able to lift off. And this is a poplar hawk moth.
Look at that.
If you want to try and get that on your hand.
Come on, little one. Look at that.
And you see how there's little reddish brown markings on its underwings?
Yep. It's right here now.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's fine. It's like the pirate's parrot.
Isn't it fantastically sculpted shape? I don't know if you've had much chance to look at it. I've got another one.
I can't get the angle. I don't want to harm it. It'll
I've
just
got
sit there,
another
will
one
it?
in here. This one's a bit quieter. And the forewings are in the hind wings stick out in front of the forewings, which is quite unusual.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them look so interesting.
Wow.
But this little rufous patch, which is on the underwing, they flash that if they feel threatened by something.
Yes.
So they can just do that, flick it. But normally when they're resting, you don't see that patch.
Yeah.
But they've got such big chunky bodies.
Yeah. So if they fly at night, do they need plants that release pollen or nectar at night, or does it not work that way?
Yes, and that's one of the reasons there are so many moths here, because I plant for moths
Yeah.
as well as for butterflies and bees. So there's plants that will give off their scent at night.
Yeah.
Evening primrose.
Yes.
Often varieties with long tubes, such as honeysuckle, because moths have long tongues.
Yes.
Nicotiana is a really good one.
Yeah.
Night scented stock, those sort of evening plants.
Yeah. Wow.
Isn't it
It's
beautiful?
very beautiful. Seems to have a furry body. Unless
Yes,
that's just, yeah.
yes.
Look at
But
that.
it takes a long time to be able to lift that heavy body off by
Yeah.
vibrating its wings.
Yeah.
And that's why it's such a great one to show children.
Yeah.
So my grandchildren love to have these
Yes.
and look at them.
Brilliant. So these, the moths will then provide food for bats,
Yes.
owls, maybe night flying
And
birds.
birds,
Yes.
birds in the morning.
Yeah.
If I don't get up early enough, a
Yeah.
robin might take some.
Yeah.
This is a particularly interesting one because it shows evolution in action. And this is a peppered moth, which in the 19th century was a dark, marbled dark colour.
Mm-hmm.
And as the environment was cleaned up and less air pollution on trees, the moth changed to a lighter moth.
Look at that, paler and speckled. That's amazing.
And that has only happened within, 80 years or something,
Yeah.
that it was able to change
Adaptation.
like that,
Yeah.
which I think is fascinating.
Yeah. Does that give you hope for them adapting to climate change as well? That's that.
The fact that they can change so rapidly.
Yeah.
I don't know that it would change in that way, but
No.
it does mean that we're bringing in moths from
All right.
from Europe that we didn't have,
Yeah.
and it's quite frequent now to see the beautiful hummingbird hawk moth
Yes.
coming in, and that's a thrill.
I have seen those. They're huge, aren't they?
They
Absolutely huge.
they're not huge, but they are so fast, like little birds,
Yeah.
and they drinking nectar.
Yeah. Oops, don't want to put this one away.
Well,
Is it right for
if
flying
it flies
today?
off, it's all right because it'll find somewhere under a leaf or something.
This one's still talking to me. Yeah.
Yes, well, I mean, look at this. This is gold spangle, which has got an incredible
Oh,
colour on. You see that in
yes.
the light.
Stunning.
Um,
That's beautiful.
and there's burnished brass, which is similar. That is a lesser swallow prominent.
I didn't know there were so many varieties and so many
Which
names.
you see how different they are. That's
Yeah.
a coxcomb prominent, which
Yeah.
is a bit like a punk hairstyle.
Yes, it is.
And that is burnished brass. Again, look at the colour of that. Isn't that wonderful?
It's really lovely. Golly.
But
Well,
every now and then in the moth trap you get what moth people called moth trap interlopers.
yeah.
And these can be just as fascinating. And this is a Microporus, a burying beetle, which is the undertaker of the insect world.
Right.
And these, a pair will excavate the soil underneath a dead animal, say a mouse or a vole, or even I've seen a hedgehog,
Yes.
and they will then bury the carcass, strip off the fur and the feathers, and then they will lay their eggs in that, and the young will hatch and have a ready food source.
That's extraordinary.
So they help to recycle everything
Yes.
in the garden, which
Yeah.
is wonderful.
Gosh.
And look at its orange bobbles on the antennae
Yes.
and its orange striped body.
Yep.
And can you see the mites?
Oh, yes, I can. Ooh, yes.
There's lots of mites and they hitchhike on them.
Oh, right.
Woo! It's
Ooh.
trying to fly.
Trying.
I'll pop it back in there for now.
Yes.
But isn't
That's
that
amazing.
fascinating?
So they must work as a team.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, exactly. They
Extraordinary.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to think all this is going on while we're sleeping.
That's what I find so lovely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing about them, or how beautiful they are, or how many
Yes.
there are.
Yes.
Yeah. So where in the layers of wildlife in your garden you'll have microscopic type things in the soil, presumably, and then we're coming up through the insects. And then what would be the next layer of up the food chain, if you like, that will be in this garden?
Well, that'll be birds in particular, and there's lots of nest sites. So that's the importance of having a multi-layered garden, going from very low-growing plants like alpines and bulbs, up through short perennials, tall perennials, shrubs, trees. So there's niches for all the different levels of wildlife. And as for the birds, we'll have blackbirds nesting, thrushes eating the snails. You can hear them tapping as they break the shells. Insect-eating birds such as warblers and flycatchers, redstarts. Then there's blue tits eating the tiny caterpillars that dangle from trees, the winter moth caterpillar. See, there's a connection with moths there very strongly.
Yeah.
They rely on 10,000 winter moth caterpillars, tiny little green ones that hang down, to feed one brood of chicks. So that's blue tits. Yes, and then of course the blue tits feed the birds of prey like the sparrowhawk and maybe the kestrel will be feeding on mice and voles. Yeah, it's the whole thing.
It is. But you're within a valley that must have its own wildlife and ecosystems. Are you adding to that, do you feel, or are you making something different?
When we came here, there was absolutely nothing in this garden. It was a completely blank canvas. And I remember the first moment that we planted some lungwort and some bees came in literally that day. And the first shrub we put, which was a hazel, within a couple of hours a robin landed on it.
Wow.
So just making something from nothing has brought lots of wildlife in. But I see it as a very permeable thing. We've got stone walls which have got holes in. It's almost as if the wildlife flows through it and under it and over it. So the garden becomes part of the landscape, but it is also a hub. Because of the sheer number of native plants and cultivated plants that we're growing.
Yeah. So if someone's just got a tiny garden, what 2 things would you suggest that they do to help the insects where they live?
Well, always the first thing with a small garden for wildlife, the key thing you can do is make a pond, even if it's just a tiny thing in a bucket. I've just got a farm field trough which is full of wildlife. That's always one of the best things. And then to, even if you've got only a few containers to grow the right plants, that's not to, this might be a bit controversial, but not to grow begonias because they don't produce any pollen or nectar. Although I love them, pelargoniums, very few have pollen and nectar. But to grow something like Bowles mauve wallflowers, which attract wide variety of insects, or the little Mexican daisies, which are food for hoverflies.
So, I mean, I've learnt a lot just sitting here. There's so much I don't know about moths. Do you think people should be more curious about them, and how can we find out more about them?
I think people are getting more interested, and the fact that the garden moth scheme was set up about 15 years ago was really helpful, and people are borrowing moth traps from organisations and community groups are setting them up. There is definitely more interest. And because I'm so interested in the connection between plants and moths and butterflies, I wrote a book which is called The Gardener and the Moth, and the subtitle is Gardening for Moths and Butterflies. But it goes very much into the specifics of exactly which varieties are best for not just the adult stages where they can drink a variety of plants, from nectar from plants, but in particular for the relationship with the caterpillars. And this is something that often gets forgotten, that without the food for the caterpillars you won't have the moths. So it's very important. I've got mulleins here, for example, and they've been completely stripped and I'm very happy for that. The leaves have been stripped by these gorgeous caterpillars that are big chunky things, white and black and yellow.
But I'm aware of gardeners shuddering at the concept of attracting caterpillars into their garden.
A lot of it happens unseen and you just wouldn't know. And I get a lot of large yellow underwings, for example, and they are feeding. I've never even seen anything that they've eaten. It's all just happening. So not a problem.
Have you got a favourite moth? Is that too difficult?
Have I got a favourite moth? Yes, and I was hoping to trap it last night and show you. And I got one and it flew off before I could put it in a container.
Right.
You look at this moth and you look down on it and you see brown and dark and white markings, and it looks like an interestingly marbled moth. You then turn it round to look at its face, and it's got 2 white rims around its eyes, and it's called Spectacle. And every time I see this moth I laugh. It's just wonderful.
Brilliant. So this garden has been created out of a bare field, in effect. How on earth do you do that? Where do you start?
Well, it was almost worse than a bare field, because somebody before us had bulldozed it backwards and forwards to sort of level it, and had put a lot of the rubble underneath the topsoil. So, how to tackle that and do it quickly, because we had so many plants to bring here from the last garden. The answer was to use a digger and to use the bucket with its slits in it as a giant riddle. So this wonderful digger driver started at one end and worked backwards over a period of 2 months, shaking out the soil. It's very noisy.
Yes.
Putting all the stones to one side. Gosh. And we used a lot of that in the sub-base of the paths. And as soon as he'd done one bit, I was planting. So it was all very, very as quick as possible.
And what was in your head? Was this glorious image in your head at that point?
I think so.
Wow.
I think we'd always walk past the house and thought, well, what a special place. This square of walled garden would make a wonderful garden. And I could just sort of see it as really large expanses of planting. Then when we came here, it all had to be done in such a hurry, no time to make a plan. Scribbled on the back of an envelope, just a shape, really basically just 2 cross paths dividing it into 4 huge beds with a little access path at the back around the wall, and that's about it. And within these vast rectangles it's really densely planted, so it's like one of the North Pennine meadows, which inspired me to sort of emulate that, but have it in a garden setting, so it's on steroids.
And we're in a period of very dry weather at the moment, but it all looks fantastic. And you haven't been watering.
No, not at all.
How's it coping?
No. It's down to management, because for over 2 months there was absolutely no water on this flower garden at all. We do water the vegetables in the containers, but the flower garden never had any water, and that's because it's weeded and mulched by the end of April, and very thoroughly mulched with using all the herbaceous material from the previous year as a mulch. So instead of cutting it down, taking it to a compost heap, bringing it back again, which is all labour intensive, I just chop it all up using hedge trimmers a lot of the time, just going like this. Chopping it up into lots and lots of little pieces and leaving it in situ. Doesn't look brilliant right to start with, but it is really effective.
Yeah.
That keeps the moisture in after the winter, so that when we have a dry period it doesn't matter. And of course all the plants are really closely packed, and that helps to stop water loss.
Wow, it's just glorious. I can't stop looking at it. So when in your life did you decide gardening was your thing? How did that happen?
I always gardened as a child, and I followed around. My parents had a gardener, and I loved him. He was wonderful. He taught me a lot just about the feel of gardening, in the same way that I hope I'm inspiring my grandchildren. And although I went to art school, that gardening was sort of always in there, and when I came up to Northumberland, I did contract gardening for quite a while. That was unsatisfying because you do it and then you walk away. And then it was the years of Chester's Walled Garden, which was 23 years of nurturing this garden, beautiful walled garden, 18th century, on Hadrian's Wall.
And now you've got this to play with.
And now I've got this to play with.
How many hours a day do you spend out here?
You'd be surprised actually how few, because people say, gosh, it must be such hard work. And I set off, there's a lot of work to do early in the year, the mulching, the setting off. And then I try and keep it really well weeded till about the end of May, and the borders fill out. And well, at the moment, there's been about 10 days it's been too hot to garden. I've been writing, so really I've done hardly anything in 10 days. So it's sporadic, I suppose. But I think it's less work than you'd imagine.
And the writing, I'm so pleased to hear, is spreading your knowledge so that other people can learn from what you're learning. What are the medias that you're writing in?
Well, they're very different styles of writing. So I write for a women's magazine once a week. It's my weekly, so for 6 months of the year I'm writing a weekly column, 2-page spread, which is quite a lot to do. All my own photographs. I write for gardening magazines. I've done work recently for the RHS The Garden, for English Garden, and then I write a monthly country diary for The Guardian, which I've now done for I think 14 years, so that's wonderful. And then books. I've written quite a number of books as well, including the book which is the story of making this garden, and that is the most personal thing that I've written.
It's a memoir really, isn't it?
Yes, but it's also a manual of how to make a wildlife garden, and how to be sensitive to what is at the place that you find. And that is called Second Nature, the story of a naturalist garden, and it begins with the buzzard circling overhead. What we need, Q, is a buzzard.
Yes, it was here earlier.
We do see them every day, so it's completely truthful.
Yes.
And it ends with the buzzard, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
But in between is everything from coming here in that first winter, being snowed in. This is quite challenging conditions here, extremes of temperature, and all the detail of how to make a wildlife garden.
Yeah. Was it hard to write the personal stuff in amongst that?
No, the whole book came so easily. It was, I think it had always been in the back of my mind, and I had diaries as well, and it just flowed, and I hope that comes along in the writing.
It reads like it flowed, it really does. Yeah. And now you've got the Moth book.
Yes.
What other books have you got in your head? Maybe not even in the publisher's office yet.
Well, no, I'm actually. I've recently agreed. I've got a new book coming out in 2026, which is on. It's a calendar of the wildlife year, and it will span all sorts of different things. So that's a new one to come along.
And presumably you're going to have to be adjusting with climate change every season, as are all gardeners and farmers.
Yes, I think it's a tricky one, that we still get extremes here. We still get quite deep frosts every winter, and we have very hot summers, so the plants here have to be very resilient and cope with a swing of about 50 degrees in temperature. And I think that's what makes it such a learning thing for people, that the kind of plants I'm growing here are resilient. Mixed in with 70 different species of wildflowers. It's not that obvious, is it?
No, it really isn't. It really isn't. It's just a delight.
From the more obvious things like red campion and ragged robin and oxeye daisies, to the more subtle, less commonly grown things like sanicle.
Yeah. So when you come out of your back door in the morning, does your heart lift every single morning when you see your garden?
I think the moment that I really appreciate it is when I come back when I've been away and I stop at the gate and I look over, it's almost as if I'm someone else coming to the garden, and that is the moment. Or coming after a couple of days away and I see new things that have started into flower. Every day there's something new. There'll be something that delights me, or a new insect or something. And of course there's the vegetable garden, and none of this would have been possible without my husband David, who has done so much of the beautiful work that you see. The dead hedge, which is an absolute artwork.
It is a triumph. It really is. It really is.
The lovely vegetable garden, which is all, I go there when I want a bit of calm because it's neat and everything's in straight rows, and it's surrounded by plants and pollinators. The beautiful log store, all sorts of wonderful things.
So tell us about the dead hedge.
We had to have a tree cut down, which was sad, and it was on the boundary and it kept knocking down the stone wall. So David rebuilt it 4 times. And when the 5th gale came, knocked the wall down again, we decided we had to have it cut down. The amount of branches was phenomenal, the amount of brash. And he suddenly had this idea to make this dead hedge in a gap that we needed to fill, to filter the wind, to provide homes to wildlife, to be something free, to recycle. It did everything. And he put up a series of parallel round stakes. Within that he wove the branches, but he didn't just do that. He actually took the pliable ends and twisted them round and then slotted a lot of them in upways, so it was rather like basket weaving, lots of interwoven bits with heavier branches in between to pack it down, and it's so solid I can sit on it. So it's just a beautiful thing.
It's like a piece of outdoor sculpture. It's lovely.
It is,
yeah.
And we think that if you took the stakes away, the whole thing would just stay there because it's so solid.
And it will take decades and decades to soften and rot.
Yeah, I think it will probably take quite a long time, and we can just top up if it does. It's not sunk in 6 months, but if it does start sinking, we'll just keep topping it up.
And lots of little creatures will be living in it.
I've observed all sorts of things. Wrens nipping in and out.
Oh, wonderful.
There's mosses, liverworts. I'm sure that, a toad might live in the bottom. It's wonderful.
It is.